Chodron is just so vast and expansive.
This is an incredibly precious community, and the good that this community does on behalf of us all is critical in this world.
It has its value to keep a lineage and to keep people coming and to be connected to Buddhism. I think it's wonderful.
People want to explore, people want to find a place where they can be at peace with themselves. And the word will get out, and the word is out, that there's this Abbey.
Here is actually the center of learning. It's the center of how the heart should be nurtured and flourish.
And I can really say, I've been a lot of places. This is the most conducive situation I have ever encountered especially for a female monastic, but also for Dharma in general.
Such space and place is very rare to find in the present day. This is more than a temple. It is in alignment with the monastic setup, where you have regular training going on. We have such a welcoming hospitality towards lay people and offer everything free, both online, offline. And those who come here in person, they are even provided separate sessions in guided meditation, instructions, in discussions.
People want to stay here for practice. People want to stay here to be awakened. People want to stay here to feel the kindness, to actually nurture the kind of love, compassion deep from their heart.
The Abbey is established by the people, so many people from all over the place, and for the people, so for everybody and anybody who wishes to come here. I keep thinking, we're in this little corner of Washington State, in a corner of the US, on the planet Earth, which is a speck of dust in the huge universe. And we're asking all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to come here? Like, who in the world are we? Well, there must be something going on. There must be something going on. And it has to do with spreading the teachings on wisdom and compassion.
For my previous years, several years of visit here, I have seen the vibrancy, the spiritual vibrancy, the spiritual potential here in producing really high quality, realized Western Buddhists.
Sravasti may not be like the birthplace of Buddhism in the West, but it's where Buddhism is really taking hold. And the vision of our teacher, Venerable Chodron, is just so vast and expansive.
This is an incredibly precious community, and the good that this community does on behalf of us all is critical in this world.
People want to explore, people want to find a place where they can be at peace with themselves.
Here is actually the center of learning. It's a center of how the heart should be nurtured and flourish.
And I can really say, I've been a lot of places. This is the most conducive situation I have ever encountered especially for a female monastic, but also for Dharma in general.
Such space and place is very rare to find in the present day.
The Buddha Hall is a project that allows the Dharma to grow. It literally creates a space, but also metaphorically for the Dharma to flourish here in the West.
Here's a drawing. You can see the Buddha Hall. It will have a deck that wraps around. So that deck that wraps around ends up at the upper level. And so you can go from the deck, walking through the garden and back on the deck and circumambulate the whole building.
We will have a large central hall.
The media room will be set up kind of like a university classroom.
So we'll have quite a large library.
We've already heard so much about the significance of the altar. Mahaprajapati Gautami and the Buddha and Ananda there to inspire us.
Venerable Thubten Chodron and I, we researched, I think we found 2 statues in the world, which is unbelievable, She's a very important figure, and yet there's 2 statues.
But this is more than a temple. It is in alignment with the monastic setup, where you have regular training going on.
On the day of the Buddha Hall consecration, it would touch my heart deeply, because people want to stay here for practice. People want to stay here to be awakened. People want to stay here to feel the kindness, to actually nurture the kind of love, compassion deep from their heart.
It's time to have this Buddha Hall.
I feel very inspired to participate in the offering of this gift as much as I'm able, and I really encourage people to do the same.
Buddha Hall, it sort of takes it to another level. And it's sort of the crown jewel, I think, of Venerable's vision.
The more people that get involved, the more people that come together to support and build this Buddha Hall, the better the whole world's going to be.
The Abbey is established by the people, so many people from all over the place. Yeah, and for the people, so for everybody and anybody who wishes to come here.
Please join us! Together we'll build the Buddha Hall!
I'm Jolene Lee. I'm from Singapore. A little dot in a map. Yeah. I miss my friends here, mostly the monastic community, whom I've known since 2011. And I come here every year since then. But this time I come, no more space. I'm squeezed to the back. I think this place needs to expand from the way I look at it. It's growing fast. In most of the Buddha halls we see in Asia, they always exist in a place that grow well and grow fast. I think it's because the Buddha statue itself has so much kind of an energy that it attracts from 10 directions. I know this is going to be a place that many people is going to come from all over the world. It has its value to keep a lineage and to keep people coming and to be connected to Buddhism. I think it's wonderful. It's a big project, and Venerable decided to put this on her shoulder, and her community who supported it. To me, that's really a big step. And what else could I do? I cannot do much. I just support in whatever way I can, to encourage and do whatever way I can to realize that mission and that dream. I never thought I have this opportunity to contribute to a Buddha statue. Yeah, because all the Buddha statue we see in Taiwan, in Singapore, or even in Hong Kong, they're all there already. How to participate, but there's a chance for me to do this in America. Oh, what an opportunity to me. I just go for it. By doing a donation to the Buddha Hall, you accumulate merits because you benefit others. You bring happiness not for yourself. You bring happiness for others. Then you can accumulate merit. doesn't need to be big money. The lady that donated the $5, she said, I can't go to US, Jolene. I think it's okay. Just remember how many people is going to use this place. Imagine the Buddha hall that we all put together, we can help out. The Buddha statue that everybody's going to see. You no need to travel there sometimes, but you can go through your donation. By doing that, you can feel you're helping others.
To start, there are several things you can do at the books table outside the hall. 1. Browse Venerable Chodron's Dharma books. 2. Learn how to support Sravasti Abbey's project on building a new 2-story Buddha hall. 3. Inquire or fill up a prayer request form for the Chittamani Tara Puja on January 29th. 4. Sign up to join an online Singapore Dharma group to watch and discuss Venerable Chodron's live teachings. 5. Inquire on other public teachings that Venerable Chodron will be having in Singapore. Buddhist nun and founder and abbess of Sravasti Abbey.
消灾延寿药师佛，南无消灾延寿药师佛，南无消灾延寿药师佛，南无消灾延寿药师佛，南无消灾延寿药师佛，南无消灾延寿药师佛，南无消灾延寿药师佛，南无消灾延寿药师佛，南无消灾延寿药师佛。
Let us bow to the Buddha. Brothers and sisters, please be seated.
People can't hear. How is this? No, still not loud enough. Okay. So I'm kind of on the verge of losing my voice. I got a cold a few days ago. So this is about as loud as I can talk right now. Okay. So I hope I make it through the whole talk. Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about healing the heart. And I got that title and the idea for the talk because there is a movement in the place where I live regarding criminal justice and having a program of what they call restorative justice. And restorative justice is they get perpetrators of various crimes together and they discuss how they got involved in their misdeeds. And then there's another group of the victims of crimes or the relatives of the victims of crimes. And they get together and talk about their loss and what they experienced. And then they put the two groups together so that the perpetrators of harm talk to the victims of harm. And it's a very beautiful program. I do prison work, and I got to know a couple of the inmates who actually lead these courses on restorative justice. And they told me it's quite remarkable when you get sometimes people who have been involved in crime. These are very often people who have drug and alcohol problems or were brought up in families that were poor or where they didn't get a good education. And what happens is the perpetrators of the crimes come to look in their own minds about why did I get involved in this? Why did I do this? And then when they talk to the victims, they really understand the effects of their actions. And then that helps them to purify. They want to purify their negative actions. They want to do something to make up for the harm that they've who very often get really stuck in their pain and often their anger. They want to retaliate, they want to hurt the perpetrators, in return. What happens is they begin to see the perpetrators as real live human beings, people who have had pain in their lives and have had faced difficult situations that have then led them to commit different crimes. And so both parties really benefit. Okay? The people who perpetrated the crime see the actions of the results of their actions. They feel regret. They want to apologize. They want to change their ways. And the victims of the crime begin to let go of their anger and let go of their hurt. So it's very beneficial for everybody. And so I read one program that called Restorative Justice in this way, healing from the heart. So I thought, oh, that's a good title for a talk. Now, I don't think you people are criminals, and I don't know if you're victims of crimes, but we have all done negative actions, and we have all experienced pain. So in that way, we're really not any different than the perpetrators and the victims of crime. So I thought to talk about how to heal from this and what kind of Dharma methods we use. Okay, so that's just an introduction. I just want to see. This is, okay. It has a funny shape. That's okay. I'll get used to it. Okay. But before we start the actual talk, I think it's good if we do a little bit of chanting and then have a silent meditation. That way we can calm our mind and really begin to focus on what we're talking about. Okay? So, your hands on your lap, right on the left, your thumbs touching, sit up straight. Now try to have your feet flat on the floor. And then lower your eyes, and we'll do the breathing meditation to calm the mind. So just breathe normally and naturally. Don't force your breath, but observe your breath. Observe what it feels like to inhale, what it feels like to exhale. And be aware of how breathing connects you to the rest of the world, how all of us breathe the same air. If you get distracted, just notice that, but don't criticize yourself. Instead, bring your attention back to the breath. So your breath is like home. You keep coming back. Okay, so I think there will be some, yes, there are some slides. We'll do the various recitations, try and think about the meaning of them, and then from there we'll go into the breathing meditation.
I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger.
So go right into the breathing meditation. generate our motivation. Let's make it a motivation of compassion, wanting sentient beings to be free of suffering and unsatisfactory experiences. In other words, not holding grudges against them or wanting to harm them because of harm they gave to us in the past, but instead seeing everybody as simply a sentient being that wants happiness and not suffering. And in that way, they're exactly like us. And so instead of just thinking about our own happiness and suffering, let's enlarge our mind and think about everyone's happiness and suffering and wish everybody to have happiness and be free of suffering. And then use that to motivate ourselves to progress on the path to full Buddhahood, so we can actually bring that about. So take a moment and generate that motivation as our reason for sharing the evening together tonight. Okay, so let's start with the perpetrators of harm. And I'll give you the examples of a couple of young men that I worked with in the US who are involved in the restorative justice movement, but are imprisoned. And one of them has now gotten out, but both of them were under 18 years of age when they committed their crimes. And they initially were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, which is a horrible sentence for a young person. So I want to talk about them, how they learned to regret and change their lives, and then use that as a way to look on our own misdeeds and the harm we have committed, and to learn from that and purify that. Okay. So one of the young men, these two young men knew each other, by the way. Actually, they're not so young. They've been in prison for a long time. So, but they were young when they started out. So one of them, he was kind of rowdy in school, and he was with a group of two other boys, or a few other boys actually. And then one day they got the idea to take one of the boys out in their group out to take a walk in the forest. And then out in the forest, three of the boys beat up this one boy who was their friend in their group, and beat him until he was dead. So when I met Ron, one of those three boys who did that, I asked him, what was going on in your mind? What was your motivation? Why did you kill one of your friends? And he was maybe 16 or 17 at the time that happened. And he said, looking back on it now, I don't know why I did it. I wasn't thinking properly. You know, it was just impulsive, and we were all kind of revved up thinking that we were big shots. And so we killed our friend. And he said, now looking back on it, I don't understand that person who I was who did that, because now I would never want to do that. And so he very much regretted what he had done. And while incarcerated in the prison, he learned how to make videos. And so he made a lot of the Department of Corrections, the prison department, commissioned him to make videos that they could use in the prisons to teach the other inmates different things. And so it's totally remarkable. He changed so much that, you know, he learned how to make videos. He didn't know how to do that before he was incarcerated. And he made videos about, you know, keeping the rules in prison, about how to talk to people, about this was a time of AIDS and HIV, so he made videos about that. And, you know, here he was. Actually, he wasn't getting paid for what he was doing, but he was doing a remarkable job for the Department of Corrections. As it happened, he had a good lawyer and had access to, there was one Catholic nun that was helping him. I helped him, but he was way across the country from me, so I couldn't go to his parole hearing. But the Catholic nun who I had been friends with, she went. And they had many parole hearings, because usually they say no, 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 no. Anyway, at one point he was paroled, and he went home, was living with his mother. In this process, I met his mother, and she was just over the moon happy that her son was back. And now he is working for a TV station in the area where he lives, again, doing film and video and so on. Yeah, he's been out now, I think, maybe a couple of years, but a completely transformed person, yeah, from before. While he was in prison, he became a Buddhist. He began doing practice. He very much liked the practice of Tara, a female aspect of the Buddha. Yeah. And while he was in prison, he ran these restorative justice classes. And he had people in there, some of them, you know, were murderers like him. Some of them were sex offenders. Some of them were in for burglary or whatever. So he really talked to a lot of people, and he really helped these guys open up and see the effects of their actions and begin to make amends for what they did. So he's one person that first explained the thing about restorative justice to me. The second young man The second young man came from a background, his family was very turbulent, and they did all sorts of funny things with the kids that were not very helpful. So how he committed his crime, he was also in for murder. He was 16 at the time. His mother was in debt. I don't know how she got in debt, but he wanted to help cancel her debt. So he wanted to make some money to pay off her debt. Yeah, because he wanted his mother to stop worrying and stop being so upset about not having money. So he did a drug deal. He was selling drugs. In the process of doing one drug deal, he killed somebody. He was 16. He got arrested, again, put in, got a lifetime sentence without the chance of parole. So he's an incredible person. At the prison he was in, he started a TV station because the prison, they didn't have their own TV station. So he started a TV station and then started making educational classes that could be played on the TVs that the various inmates could watch. Yeah. He was also transsexual, so he got very involved in that movement, and many people were writing him letters. He was corresponding with them, helping them with their various problems, either their own psychological difficulties or problems with their families. As far as I know, he's still imprisoned. Yeah, they haven't let him out. But some years ago, I went in to visit both of them. They knew each other, they were in the same prison. So I asked for a visit with both of them, because I had been to the prison a few times to lead classes, Buddhist classes. And so the assistant warden let us in. We were in a small room. We talked for, I don't know, an hour or 2 hours, really good conversation. And then the warden came and led me out, or the assistant warden led me out. And he said, when we were leaving, he said, neither of those two men need to be here. Neither of them need to be incarcerated. They aren't any harm to the public now. I thought that was pretty amazing, because people in the criminal justice system very seldom say anything nice about the inmates. And I had the same feeling with both of them, that they had learned what they needed to learn. Yeah, they had, repented. They had changed their life around. They had learned skills and began using them to benefit people. Yeah. So I was quite pleased that the assistant warden said that. Yeah, the second young man, he was very, very bright, very intelligent. And so he started studying Buddhism, and he would write me lots of letters with lots of questions and ask for books. And he really thought deeply about the Dharma. And one time he told me, because it's very common in prison for people to be depressed, especially if you have a life sentence. You're not getting out. You're forever separated from the people that are dear to you. You're in a very violent environment. So the second young man said to me, I just lost my train of thought. He said at one time, I was very depressed about my life here in prison. It just seemed so useless and so, useless, purposeless. And he said, I thought of killing myself. And then he said, but because I studied Buddhism, I learned about rebirth, and I realized that if I killed myself, I would be reborn and still have the same pain that I have now. And so he said, then I decided suicide is not a good idea. I thought that was quite remarkable, that someone like that would think of their next rebirth and realize that suicide doesn't solve any of your problems. It just continues them and creates some negativity at the same time. So he had really taken the Dharma to heart in that way. Okay, so what can we learn from his experience that coincides with our experience? So like I said, we probably haven't killed anybody or raped anybody or whatever, but we've committed negativities, right? Anybody here who has never committed any negativity? Okay, let's just do a quick rundown of the 10 non-virtues. How many people have killed, not necessarily human beings, but animals and insects? How many of you have used things at your office or maybe at your home that don't belong to you and kept them for yourself? Like borrowing a book from the library and keeping it, or not paying taxes and fees that you're supposed to pay. Some of you are sitting there not responding. I wonder. Okay, then the third one is unwise and unsexual, and unwise and unkind sexual behavior. Okay, so that could mean having a relationship, if you're married or in a relationship with somebody else, or even if you're single, going with somebody who's in a relationship. It could also mean unwise sexual behavior in the sense that there may be a chance of spreading sexually transmitted diseases, but not using the means to prevent that. Okay, or it could mean just using people for our own sexual pleasure without really caring about them. How many people have done anything like that? Well, some of you are so innocent. My goodness, I've never been with an audience that is so innocent. Okay, then we go into the 4 non-virtues of speech. First one is lying. How many of you have lied? Okay, how many of you are not raising your hand, but you've lied, so you're lying right now? Huh? Who's raising their hand from that? Oh, again, so many innocent, sweet people. My goodness. Okay, then the next one is divisive speech. Used our speech to divide people who are friends or divide family members, create havoc in people's relationships by what we say, telling this one what that one said. How many of you have done that? I can't believe that so many of you have not done that. Yeah. How about harsh words, speaking harsh words, insulting people, criticizing people, trashing people? What's with this side of the room? This side raised their hand, this side is like, oh, you're not talking about me. Okay, how about the next verbal one? Idle talk, gossip, blah, 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 all sorts of usual talk. You know, just blah, blah, blah about nothing. Okay, that's better. But some of you still, oh, I'm not raising my hand, you know. Okay, then there's three mental ones. One is coveting or desiring other people's possessions. How many of you go shopping? Oh, some of you don't even go shopping. Okay. What kind of Singaporean are you if you don't go shopping? When we shop, we're looking at other people's things and we're saying, oh, I would like that, I want that. Okay, then the second one is malice. Thinking of how you want to harm somebody in return for what they did to you, how you're going to get even. Okay, and then the last one is wrong views. Yeah, holding on to all sorts of views, spiritual views that are erroneous. You know, like there's a devil, or things happen by chance. There's no such thing as karma. Many of you have had that. Okay. So, we can see that we've done negativities, yeah, and it's in the tradition, there's the four opponent powers that we practice to purify. So the first is regret, okay? So when you come for repentance ceremonies, you regret your misdeeds, don't you? You don't feel proud of them. Oh, look at me. Yeah, I embezzled $50,000 from my company. I'm so proud of it. No, you don't become proud of your misdeeds. You come with a regretful attitude, okay? And an attitude that really wants to change. You don't want to do those actions again because you realize, first of all, that it harms others. And second of all, you create negative karma, and that negative karma is on your own mind stream, and it will ripen in the future lives or in this life with having different problems and various unpleasant experiences. So we have regret, we have a wish not to do the action again. Then we try and repair the relationship with whoever we harmed. Yeah, and this is by apologizing directly to them, but we can't always apologize to everybody that we've harmed. They may have moved away, they may have died. Yeah, we can't contact them. But the important thing is in our own mind to change our attitude towards those people. So to have an attitude of compassion and an attitude that wants to attain full awakening so that you can help them do the same. So that's the third of the four powers. Then the fourth one is some kind of remedial action. Yeah. So when you come to the temple or at home, when you do chanting, when you bow to the Buddha, when you make offerings, when you do volunteer work, yeah, all of these kinds of things are ways to purify the negative karma so it will not ripen in unpleasant experiences for us. Okay? So even though the restorative justice program in the prisons, it doesn't talk about the four opponent powers, 1, 2, 3, 4. When the inmates who have committed these negativities come together, yeah, the leader will help them generate regret, help them have a strong determination not to do the action again. Yeah, will help them change their attitude towards whoever they harmed, and will help them do some kind of remedial action, which in this case of restorative justice would be meeting with the victims of crimes and or the relatives of the victims of crimes. So they don't meet with the actual people that they harmed, but with other people who suffered from a similar kind of harm. Okay, so that becomes the restorative action or the remedial action. Okay, so this program really is quite helpful for these guys in doing that. Okay, so that's talking about for the perpetrators of crimes. Let's look now at the victims of crimes. And so here again, I have two stories, and they're both from people I know. So one of the stories, I met one woman at a Dharma center where I was teaching, and she told me that her husband was a police officer, I believe in San Francisco, and there's certain areas of San Francisco that are quite rough. Anyway, he was on duty, and some person who was doing, was acting in a criminal way. I don't know exactly what the other guy was doing, but this police officer was trying to stop him, and the guy actually killed the police officer. Okay, which in the US, you get a really long sentence for killing the police. The system is quite hard on you. So this was her husband, who she loved very much, who was the police officer who got killed. And so she told me that when the guy who did it was arrested and when he was on trial, she went to the trial, and her husband's mother and father went to the trial also. And the judge or the jury had asked, what kind of sentence do you want for the killer? And all three of them said, we want him put to death. We want the death sentence. So this woman I met said, yeah, I told them, I want this guy to be dead. Yeah, He killed the person I loved. He should give up his life. She was so angry and bitter about her husband's murder. So as time went on, she encountered Buddhism. She started going for teachings. She started doing the practice, especially meditating on love and compassion, especially seeing that all of us are the same and wanting happiness and not suffering, and also beginning to learn something about the guy who killed her husband, and realizing that this man himself had grown up in a very difficult situation and was a very, very unhappy person. Yeah. I think he might have been a member of a gang, actually. And people who join gangs often do so because their home life is so terrible and they're looking for friends and some group of people to be with because they can't stand their home because it's violent and so on. Okay, so she meets the Dharma, the wife of the police officer. She meets the Dharma, she starts practicing. And then her whole mind changes and she thought, I don't want this man to die. I don't believe in capital punishment. He should, what is the purpose of the state killing him? It doesn't do anything to bring my husband back. And so she actually wanted to go to the prison where this guy was and apologize to him for speaking about him so harshly at the trial and demanding that he get the death penalty. She felt very bad about that. She didn't want him killed. She wanted to apologize. Actually, the prison staff would not let her go and meet him. I don't know why. It seems to me it would have been actually a very healing experience for both of them, but they wouldn't let her go. So I think she wrote a letter and gave it to somebody who was going into the prison to give to him. So here we have an example of somebody practicing forgiveness. Yeah, she had actually, in speaking so strongly about wanting the death penalty, that was motivated by malice and hatred. She created some negative karma in that. So she wanted to purify that. But even more than that, she had some compassion for this guy. And she realized that he did that because of various causes and conditions that happened in his life. Yeah, that he was not an evil person. He made a horrible mistake, but he was not evil. And I really marveled when she told me this story because it really takes a lot of courage from somebody who is the spouse of someone who has been killed to not want the killer, put to death, and changing her mind and having some compassion. And she really said many times when she was telling me the story how much she regretted her animosity towards him. Okay, but you see how she healed her pain by forgiving. Okay, forgiving does not mean that what the other person did was okay. What the other person did, kill her husband, was not okay. But what happened is she gave up her anger, her animosity towards it. And so she forgave him. So her mind was peaceful. Yeah. Instead of being agitated all day. Why did they do this? Imagining the crime over and over again, being so hateful towards the perpetrator. She just completely put down all of her anger and animosity. It's quite remarkable, I think. So that's one of the stories. Then the second story is one of the women who attends the Abbey very regularly. Her brother, he was also a police officer. And he was, policing the streets. Again, I can't remember exactly what it was, but one young person, assaulted him and beat him. And I think he had a concussion or some kind of damage to his head. And he wasn't in good shape after that. So, of course, they arrested the guy who beat him and prosecuted him. He got a jail sentence. He was imprisoned. Yeah. And my friend, whose brother this is, used to say, my brother was kind of a tough character. Yeah. But after this assault, he began to soften. And what happened is he and his wife went to visit the perpetrator in prison, and they became friendly with him and started to help him. So when he applied for parole, they were all for it. They spoke in favor of him being paroled so he could come to the outside. And then once he got released, do you remember what happened? But he was quite friendly. He and his wife were very friendly with them, and helped him. And I think they sponsored him, so he went back to school. Yeah. And so here's this person who hadn't had much education. Now the victim of his crime is sponsoring him and paying his tuition fees so he could go back to school. And they became quite good friends. Yeah. And my friend, looking at her brother, said, I can't believe this of my brother. But again, we see what happened with him is, he had a choice. He could either hold on to the hurt and the pain and hold a grudge and want retaliation and tell the courts to lock this guy up for as long as he lives, or he could reach out and get to know the man. And in the process of getting to know him, again, what he realized was here was a person who had faced many negative conditions and situations in his life. And that's what led to him, assaulting a police officer. But when he got to know the man, and especially when the perpetrator went back to school, and they started talking about what he was learning in school and having really good conversations, again, he was able to put down his hurt, his anger, and see that person as just another sentient being who wants to be happy and not suffer. And they're still friends today. Quite amazing. So here's two examples on the side of the perpetrators and two examples on the side of the victims of people who have succeeded in forgetting, or not forgetting, forgiving. you don't forget these things. You remember them, yeah. You speak about your experience. In fact, in the second story I told you about my friend's brother, he now goes around and gives talks. I don't know, he goes with sometimes the guy, so the guy who attacked him, and he go out and give talks together about stopping crime, restorative justice, forgiveness, and so on. Yeah. So what these stories show is that it is possible to let go of resentment, the wish for vengeance and retaliation. Yeah. It's possible to forgive, and because forgiveness means we're putting down our anger. We're making the determination that anger hurts me. When we have a grudge about somebody and want them to suffer, that anger hurts me. The other person is out doing whatever they're doing. I'm sitting here going, oh, I hate that man. How can I retaliate? How can I get even? I want to hurt him back. Yeah? So we're the ones who suffer when we hold a grudge. Our grudges don't harm the person who harmed us. Yeah, think about that. Okay, so it is possible to release all these things and establish a good relationship with people who in the past have harmed us. Okay, again, it doesn't mean what they did was okay. It was not okay. It means that I'm going to stop being angry about it. When I was in Israel some years ago, the Holocaust is something very alive in Israel. Almost every person you meet has a relative who was in one of the concentration camps or died in a concentration camp. And all the young men and young women need to do NS in Israel. All of them. Okay. So I was leading a retreat there, and some of the young Israelis had a lot of anger about the Holocaust, about the situation with the Palestinians, about their own government and how it was conducting affairs. So I led them through a meditation in which we imagined a concentration camp. And we imagined going into the different rooms, the cells, the factories where they had to work, the gas chambers where they were killed, the crematorium where they were cremated. And we imagined going through all the places in the concentration camp, and in each place we meditated on love and compassion, on metta and karuna. And it was so powerful. Yeah, they had never done anything like that. And just to meditate for their own relatives who had been killed, for their friends who had suffered in the wars, for everybody involved in these situations, the Nazis, the Palestinians who are getting harmed now. It was a really, really moving meditation. So again, that's an example of how it is possible to let go of animosity and cultivate compassion towards people who we formerly did not feel any compassion When we have compassion, our own heart is at ease. Unlike when we want to retaliate, our own heart is agitated. Okay, so here's where healing from the heart comes in. Yeah, we heal because there's been a change in our heart, a change in our mind. Yeah. And when we put down the anger, the fear, the bitterness, yeah, we are healed. When we confess and repent and do the four opponent powers for harms we have done, then again we are healed. Yeah, because we've changed our attitude. We've regretted what we did. We have a determination not to repeat it. Okay. So these are very strong things of people having a change of heart for the better. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is open it for question and answer. I think there's somebody who can either pass out paper, you can write your question down, they'll bring it up here, or somebody who has a microphone so that you can ask your question from the floor. Oh, it looks like there's a bunch of questions pre-written. Okay. What do you think of monks in the Tibetan tradition getting married and having families while still wearing robes? If you are a monk, you do not get married, you are celibate, you do not have children. Okay. If you break your celibacy vow, you take off your robes, you are no longer a monk. What can be confusing to people is that there are some Tibetan traditions where the teachers are lay people. And those teachers sometimes wear clothes that look like monastic robes, but they aren't. So they may wear the lower robe like this, but their upper robe is white and maybe with red stripes. Okay, Sakya Treason is a good example of that. Okay, he is not a monk, yeah, but he is an excellent Dharma teacher and can be trusted, and he has kids. Okay, so there are a few teachers like that, but like I said before, monks and nuns should be celibate. If they aren't, they should take off their robes and go back to lay life. Other questions?
If any one of you has questions, you can proceed to any of the microphones at the side of the hall.
Or do you have paper to give people who want to write questions?
Yes, if any of you would like to pen down your questions, you can also pass them to the volunteers at the side of the hall.
Yes. Yeah, can you come to one of the microphones and ask your question?
Sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do Buddhists need to be vegetarian?
I'm sorry, I
Buddhists.
missed part of what you said. Do Buddhists need to be vegetarian?
Yeah. The second question is, how do we purify our karma?
Okay. Yeah, stay here. I'll answer the first one, then you can ask the second one. No, people don't need to be vegetarian. Some Buddhist traditions are the Chinese Mahayana, you're vegetarian. Theravada are not vegetarian. Tibetan are not vegetarian. Although many people in Theravada, and especially in the Tibetan tradition, choose to be vegetarian, but it's not a requirement. Okay, second question. Is the mic on?
Okay. Second question is, how do we purify our karma? And yeah, I think that's the question.
Okay, those are the four opponent powers that I described in the talk. Having regret, a determination not to do the action again, repairing the relationship by changing your attitude towards whoever you harmed, and doing some kind of remedial action, like prostrating, making offerings, doing volunteer work, some good kind of action to kind of repair the bad action. Okay. In most of my books, I explain those. So if you read Open Heart, Clear Mind, or Buddhism for Beginners, most of them, there's an explanation of the four powers. Okay. Okay, this one.
Good evening, Venerable. Zhang Chup here.
Yes.
My question is how to become a Buddha in one lifetime?
Practice very diligently for eons before that lifetime. Okay? In order to get enlightened in one eon, you have to create or in one lifetime, you have to have done a lot of practice for many, 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 many lifetimes in the past. Yeah. So attaining awakening isn't just a question of something that is quick, cheap, and easy. I did it in this lifetime, cross that out my list. Now I can go dancing and singing and have an affair. Okay. So to really make progress on the path, we have to practice diligently and consistently. Okay. Some people say, oh, it takes so long, La. Why can't it be shorter? What, you're going to bargain with the Buddha? Yeah, the Buddha didn't make up the path. He just described it. He can't shorten it because there's so many causes that we have to create, so many different aspects of ourself that we need to purify and develop good qualities in. So it's not something quick. But the thing to rejoice in is that we have found the path in this lifetime. Yeah, for who knows how many lifetimes in the past we've wandered in samsara, never encountering the Buddha's teachings. So we're so fortunate this lifetime to meet the teachings, have access to good teachers, be able to practice. So we should definitely rejoice at that and then use our good rebirths to make progress.
I have a question from a member of the audience. If I have been hurt by people many times, how do I heal myself? I have lost trust and faith in people relationship. Venerable Chodron, could you provide some ways? I have lost trust and faith in people relationship.
Interpersonal relationships. Yeah, sometimes people hurt us. Sometimes we misinterpret what people do. And they may not be trying to hurt us, but we are super sensitive. And because we're super sensitive, somebody does one small thing and we go, oh, I'm wounded. They hurt me so badly, they betrayed my trust. But sometimes if we back away and look at the situation again, we'll realize that maybe we misinterpreted what people did. Or maybe we were just too sensitive about it. Yeah. You know, we all have things that we're sensitive about. And if somebody mentions those things, we just automatically contract. Nobody's trying to hurt us, but we're sensitive. So that's like having those hurts that we have are like having big buttons. Yeah, like the things you pull when there's a fire or that you push when there's a fire. And the buttons say, do not press. And the buttons are lined up along a corridor. You know, my sensitivity about how I look, my sensitivity about how much money I make, my sensitivity about my family background, my sensitivity about, you know, my occupation, all these things. And all the buttons are lined up in a corridor, but the corridor is not very wide. So somebody walks down the corridor and the buttons are super sensitive. So that there's a little bit of wind, the air moves when we pass the button, but the button's so sensitive that it goes, yeah? Okay, so that button is the thing we're sensitive about. Somebody does something small, oh, it's so painful. And sometimes we are already primed for somebody to hurt us. Let me give you an example. I had a friend who had a baby. Okay, now when you have a baby, you're supposed to gain weight, right? If you are pregnant and you do not gain weight, something's wrong. So my friend was pregnant. She was going to go visit her sister in another city. And she told me, okay, I have a ticket, I'm going to see my sister. She hasn't seen her sister yet. This is all in anticipation of what's going to happen. And she says, as soon as I arrive and my sister sees me, she's going to say, you've put on weight, haven't you? And that, my friend said, is going to make me so mad. She's always commenting on my weight. My friend was not fat, but she was very sensitive about her weight anyway, to the extent that she was all set up for her sister to comment on her weight and insult her, even though nothing had happened. Okay? So we need to check if sometimes we're so sensitive about things like that. Yeah, we're all set for somebody to comment and hurt us. Okay? So, like this person said, they've lost faith in people and trust in people. Another thing that often happens is we expect too much of other people. I have a little slogan. It is, sentient beings do what sentient beings do. In other words, all these people are sentient beings. In other words, beings who are in samsara, who have ignorance, anger, and attachment, pride, jealousy, and so on. They are not Buddhas. They're ordinary beings. And they do what ordinary beings do. I am also an ordinary being. I do what ordinary beings do. Yeah. I expect too much of others. I get mad at them over nothing. I complain. I blame them. So everything I do, because I'm being an ordinary being, these people are also going to do. And that's because we're all in samsara. The difference is, I don't expect myself to be perfect. When I make mistakes, okay, it's okay. I made a mistake. I'll repair it. I won't, get too critical of myself. But other people, I hold them to a standard way up here. You are never supposed to say anything unkind to me. You are never supposed to point out my fault because I don't have any. Yeah. And even if I had some faults, you shouldn't see them. So I have all these unrealistic things. Yeah. You should always be kind to me. When I'm in a bad mood, you should always cheer me up. You should never lie to me, but it's okay if I lie. Yeah, because when I lie, there's a good reason. When you lie, it's a bad reason. Okay, so you can see that our mind has set up these impossible bars for people and then judge them when they don't meet the criteria we think they should. Okay, that is really unrealistic, isn't it? Yeah, that we expect people never to make mistakes, never to get irritated. Yeah, we expect them not to do all the things we do, like complain and so on. So that is our problem. Yeah, we put the bar way too high. We don't have a lot of tolerance of other people. Okay, so we have to work at becoming more tolerant. And we do that by having a very broad mind and knowing that people make mistakes and that people have defilements on their mind stream. And sometimes they're going to say nasty things, but we don't need to take their nasty remarks personally. We don't need to get mad at everything they do. Okay? So if we think like that, then our mind becomes much more tolerant, much softer, yeah, much less judgmental. Because sometimes our minds are so judgmental. We sit and we look at people. Why are they walking that way? Why is their hair combed that way? That person looks mean. We don't even know people. We're just sitting in the MRT looking around and we judge people. By making up stories about them. And that's our problem. We're not being very fair. Okay. So we're out of time. I think we have to stop now. So, what comes first? There were some people who, yeah, you're first. What? The prayer, yeah, okay, do the prayer. So they have an aspirational prayer that they wrote. Okay.
So tonight, in this hall of no forms, in the presence of our Lord Buddha, Venerables, and our respected teachers, Reverend Chodron, Reverend Damcho, and all the dearest brothers and sisters in the Dharma, we would like to make these aspiration prayers to our Lord Buddha for the Buddha Hall projects in Savasti Abbey. Our greatest teachers, Lord Buddha, we kneel before you. Please listen to us. We know that you are listening and continue listening to us. We would like to thank you heartily from the bottom of our hearts for the blessings and the strengths you have given to help us to establish Buddhism in the West and to lead us establish the Savasti Abbey in the USA. With your blessings and strengths bestowed on us over the years, we have successfully purchased the land, remodeled the garage into the meditation hall, renovated the kitchen, building the Gotami house, Charansi hall, and the teachers' cabins. Your wisdom, compassion, and teachings attracted many people from all over the world to visit and stay in Abbey for monastics trainings and Dharma teachings that helps oneself and others to live a more meaningful life. You know that the monastic has grown from one nun, Reverend Chodron, and 2 cats to now more than 20 monastics and many more lay practitioners. Presently, we need a home, which is the Buddha Hall, to house all these monastics and lay practitioners for their Dharma practice, prayers, meditations, annual retreats, the Dharma events, both in physical or online programs. We hope we could complete it sooner because we could not wait further to receive your kind arrival and to receive all the brothers and sisters in this hall, in Singapore, the world, and even the 10 directions beings. Your hall, the Buddha Hall, will be the spiritual home for all beings. With this, we make these sincere aspiration prayers, and please bestow blessing, financial resources, and strength to us for the completions of the Buddha Hall. My Lord Buddha, please accept our invitations and come home to the Savasti Abbey Buddha Hall, which we are building to receive your presence. O great Lord Buddha, with utmost sincerity from the depth of our hearts, we quietly voice these aspirations to you. Please, Buddha, may we have the fortunes to meet your pure teachings, practice them sincerely, keep good ethical conduct, and generate bodhicitta to liberate all sentient beings. Please give us the courage to practice well with joyous efforts. Inspire us and all sentient beings so that we may be liberated from the oceans of samsaras and gain happiness and peace. Buddha, please accept our aspirations. "我向你伟大的佛陀呀，我从心灵拼出了万分的至诚，向你的恕责祈祷，庇佑着我们一切众生，出苦海获得快乐平安。佛要请你接受，出苦海获得快乐平安。佛要请你接受。
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And now we'll do the dedication of merit.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Brothers and sisters, please rise and put your palms together. Let us thank the Venerable by making a bow. We have come to the end of this talk. Venerable Chodron will be distributing money pills at the front of this hall. We would like to seek your cooperation on the following. As time is limited, please do